seeing y'all here. Hey, Doc. We put the mics just on the tables because nobody wants to touch them. So pick it up. Pledge allegiance. We'll get this thing going. It's over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible. All right. You'll bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together, and we ask that you encourage us and guide us as we try to make the best decisions possible for this district. We ask that you offer us a hedge of protection and keep us all safe. We ask this all in your holy name. Amen. All right. Dr. Jackson?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Thank you. Good evening, board. Good evening, folks that are here. Thank you all for being here. And tonight, what we would like to do, administration would just like to have a conversation with the board and share some information with the board about academic programs, elementary and junior high school boundaries. We'll have some conversations about that. And then after that, I'll share a presentation, a very, very brief presentation on a plan for strategic planning in our district. The consultant that was going to be here, but our times and our dates got mixed up, could not be here, but I certainly plan to have her in front of the board at a later meeting very soon. But I want to also just go ahead and kind of get it out there that we're in the processes and the planning stages of a strategic plan for the school district. Tonight, I'm going to invite to come up Dr. Rebecca Brown and Julie Abram and team and company, and they're going to share some information about academic programs. So, Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Good evening, board.
Good evening.
We are here tonight to ask for your blessings and a couple of academic program recommendations that we have for 24-25 school year. These are not necessarily policies. They're more of some changes that we feel will better the the academic improvement of our students here in Newport. So the first one is eligibility for extracurricular activities, and I'm going to let Ms. Abrams come up. That's the first sheet that you have in front of you. There's a little bit of information about how it is currently now with UIL exemptions for student athletes and for fine arts and performing arts students, and she's going to share the recommendation that we have.
Thank you. So as you know, the background is in the state of Texas, we are required to adhere to TEA regulations regarding no pass, no play. If you're familiar with that, that pertains to UIL and other extracurricular activities. The concern is that with advanced level courses or collegiate level courses, so those are pre-AP, AP, dual credit, things like that, the state allows local districts to determine how those courses, the grades of those courses will fall under the no pass, no play policy. Historically, in the Porte ISD, students in these advanced collegiate courses may earn any grade lower than a 70 and retain eligibility to participate in contests without penalty, whereas students who are in regular courses have to adhere to the 70 rule, no pass, no play. So we have not had any provision for students in advanced courses to retain a minimum grade in a course to participate. And I think that was just to eliminate barriers. We didn't want students to feel that they had to choose between athletic performance and being in advanced courses. But we are recommending a change to align better with what we're seeing everywhere else. And so our recommendation is that we adjust that requirement to the following. And this is in partnership with the athletic department and the fine arts department. We recommend adjusting our guidelines to require students in advanced or collegiate courses to earn at least a 60 to retain eligibility to participate in sanctioned district contests for extracurricular activities. So if they fail with anything lower than a 60, they would be ineligible. Students who are in regular courses are ineligible if they fail with anything lower than a 70. The 60 number is aligned with many of our neighbors, and it also aligns with what is considered a passing grade in dual credit classes. So kids can earn a 60, and that's considered a passing grade for a college course. And so for us, it's not credit bearing, but it does allow us that levity. So that paragraph that follows is just the language that illustrates that in what we're recommending.
And we have a caveat, is if a student does have a 60, they can apply for a waiver. So they have a chance to waive that.
One time
For the first 9 weeks.
For the first 9 weeks, to waive that 60.
Yeah.
So they can still participate. And again, Julie and the team met with Crib Creek, Deer Park, and the districts around us, and these are some of the same criteria that they have to meet.
Sorry, you said they can apply for a waiver one time in the first?
So in the first 9 weeks only. And so that allows students to take an academic risk in some of those classes. They're newly enrolled in those courses. They can fail with lower than a 60 in the first 9 weeks only and still be eligible, and they can apply for that waiver one time only. So that allows them to make sure that they're in the right course, to give them an opportunity to be successful and not fear penalties.
Does Sam Jack share their grades throughout the semester or only at the end?
So for dual credit, parent grade are not allowed to see any credit.
Yeah, they make that real clear.
Do we need to make a proposal or?
No, this is administration telling you what we want to do to take care of it. It requires no board action on this. This is just what we would like to do so that we can move forward and be in sync with our neighbors, kids that are, our kids are competing against it with.
So if they're in dual credit, say the semester's over with that course and they make a 60, are they penalized, quote unquote penalized
If that
after
falls
that?
within an eligibility calendar period, and there's a whole entire UIL calendar, I couldn't even begin to speak to you on what those dates are, but if that end of semester grading period falls within a UIL eligibility determination period, it could impact what they do.
The good thing is these youngsters are generally high performing achievers. It rarely happens, but we do need to have something in place that sends a message that the brightest kid in the school district, can be penalized for not doing well, just like some of the average kids in the school district. And I think that's what this is called.
And this would also trigger counseling for the students the first 9 weeks, because we want to ensure that our students are in the right proper class. Because again, their GPA will be affected if they continue to get 60s or below, so we want them to be successful.
It triggers us to,
Right.
you know what I mean? We just wanted to update the board on that.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our second recommendation is to turn to the second page, and there's a few slides that we want to share with you, is we are having conversations with our elementary schools as well as Baker and junior highs in terms of advanced math in our district. So as you all are aware, looking at our data across the last 5 years with math, especially in secondary, we've got 2, but Julie's going to come up and share with you some things that are happening in the state in terms of a law that has been passed with advanced math students and how it affects support and how we feel this recommendation will help in the next 2, 3, 4 years. We should see the growth and students at where they need to be by the time they get to algebra and to high school math.
So just a little bit of background about advanced math pathways. We are required by the state of Texas to provide a pathway to Algebra 1 in 8th grade. That's, everybody does, it's a requirement. In the most recent legislature last year, in Senate Bill 2124 was passed, and it adds to that another layer. It requires that any student enrolled, any student in 6th grade, so coming out of 5th grade, who performed in the top 40% on the 5th grade STAR Math assessment must be automatically enrolled in advanced math in 6th grade. So that's new.
Yeah, let's marinate on that.
Marinate on that.
Say that again, Julie.
So in the state of Texas, we are required by law, Senate Bill 2124, to enroll any student who performed in the top 40% on the 5th grade STAR Math, the top 40% of the state, on the 5th grade STAR Math. We're required to enroll them automatically into 6th grade advanced math. Families have an opt-out only option for that. We are to automatically enroll the family opt-out. So I want you to take a look at how we perform in 5th grade. When you look at the number of students who are in the top 40% based on last year's data, so this first chart is 5th grade performance on STAR, 5th grade math, you can see that 46% of our students would then be enrolled in advanced math. Typically, rule of thumb, 30% is your sweet spot for advanced takers, typically advanced coursework. So 46% is an extraordinary number of students in the advanced course.
Right.
But that is what the law requires. Now we saw an increase in our advanced math based on this law this last year. We did have several families opt out of this, but we need to ready ourselves for this increase, this push that the state is having for students to take more advanced math courses. So, currently, our pathway to advancement in Porte ISD begins in 6th grade. So we'll take a look at the next chart there. What I'll show you is our pathway begins in 6th grade. So in 5th grade, nothing happens. We don't have the advanced coursework that happens in 5th. Everybody's on a regular 5th grade curriculum. We do have GT enrichment and things like that, but there are no advanced courses for 5th graders. In 6th grade, we take a look at STAR scores and grades in class and student interest, and now we look at the top 40% rule. And students will then, in 6th grade, take a blended curriculum. So we start acceleration in 6th grade. Students in 6th grade advanced math take 6th grade, all of 6th grade standards, and part of 7th. Okay? And then they take the 6th grade STAR. Okay? Then in 7th grade advanced math, students will learn all the rest of the 7th grade standards and all of 8th grade standards, and they take the 8th grade STAR. So students will then skip the 7th grade STAR. Does that make sense, everybody? Then that's our pathway. Then in 8th grade, they will take pre-AP Algebra 1, and they will take the Algebra 1 end of course exam at the end of their year. So an advancement pathway requires that somewhere along the way to accelerate, a student will doesn't require. Best practice is that we don't double up a tester, right? We don't make a kid take 2 STAR exams in a single year. So generally, we skip a grade. What grade that is, it just depends. But in our case, our current model is that we skip 7th grade so that we don't have any kid taking 2 assessments in a single year.
And every district has a certain way they do it. They may skip 6, they may skip 7, they may skip 8, but it depends on the district and how they want what advanced math they want to skip.
Does that make sense, everybody? Any questions on any of that right now? So here's the concern. So currently, our math performance is not where we want it to be. Couple that with, what we are required to do with the new 6th grade law. We're having some conversations about how do we better serve our students with our mathematics. We are lagging behind many in our region in terms of our math performance, particularly our 7th grade math is particularly low at the meets level, and you'll take a look at that following chart, you'll see what I'm talking about. So you'll look at this chart, and it's a three-year projection. So at 5th grade, you'll see in 21 we were at 67, this is at the meets level. In 22 we're at 60, 23 we're at 68. But you'll see as you go along, 7th grade takes a pretty significant dip. Part of that is because we do not have any advanced testers in 7th grade. So nobody in advanced math takes a 7th grade STAR test. So all your top performing students are no longer in that equation. Does that make sense?
Right. So wait a minute, so like, because you have his chart, Alvin and Jeff Park, so what do?
What do they do with their STAR performance factor? I don't have that chart in here, I apologize, I can get that for you.
Because the reason why I'm saying that is, you're saying that, but if Alvin and Deer Park are doing the same thing we're doing, then we're still,
Right, Alvin and Deer Park are not doing what we're doing.
Okay.
So, I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, but if you go to the back, we can skip to that. Go to the very last page. Alvin and Deer Park start advancement in grade 5. So their advancement pathway looks a little different than ours. They double up earlier than we do, and you'll see on that last chart, their progression, they're increasing, and they're seeing gains as they go through, whereas we are not. As part of that comparison. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we've got some performance concerns that we've got in some of our grades. We recognize that 7th grade assessments, the way that we look at the data, we do not have any advanced testers in that group. In addition, our pathway to advancement allows students to skip 7th grade STAR, which is particularly concerning because there's a set of skills that are particular to 7th grade learning that are critical to students' college readiness. Specifically, over 20% of the skills tested on the SAT National Assessment come from the 7th grade TEKS.
Those kids now.
I just want you to hear that again. So the SAT, 20% of that test is made up of 7th grade skills for math. In addition, the SAT, we have 10% of the skills on the SAT come from 8th grade learning. 47% comes from Algebra 1 learning. 7% comes from grade 6. So over half of the learning on the SAT that's tested comes from before high school learning, really. And then 16% comes from geometry or algebra 2 or other high school.
But it's foundational skills.
All foundational
It's foundational skills, so it makes sense.
They're foundational algebra skills, so about 7-8 years ago, the state moved all of math from one level to the next. So really in 8th grade math is really algebra. So they kind of moved everything for the rigor. And so we're seeing that change in our scores in the report in terms of our students and their success.
But one of the things that we're finding is that the 7th grade assessment is the one that we miss, and that's the bulk of the learning that we see on college readiness, and so we wonder if that's the best fit for us. So as we talk through and we've seen other models in other districts, our proposal to improve mathematics performance is to adjust the advancement pathway that we offer here in Porte ISD to start an advancement pathway in grade 5. This will allow us to get those students ready earlier to be successful, specifically with the new SB 2124, so that we're required to put them in 6th grade, but we want to start advancing them sooner so that we can ensure that they're ready for what that might look like in 6th grade. It will allow us to have pure instruction in 7th grade and 8th grade standards, so we would not have a blended model of learning anymore in those grade levels. And it would provide students with acceleration in the 5th grade, so we would double up 5th and 6th during a time when students have more instructional minutes than anywhere else. So when they're in elementary, they have anywhere between 80 to 90 minutes of mathematics instruction on the elementary campus. But when you get to Baker, you have 60 or 47 when you get to junior high. So it allows us to capitalize on a larger number of instructional minutes at the elementary. So our recommendation, and also align with some of our neighbors, is to start that advancement in 5th grade. So it would look like this. The 5th grade would be an advanced math class on every elementary campus, and it would be, the instruction would be all of 5th grade standards, and all of sixth grade standards in a compacted way. So we would layer the learning together. So we would pair those standards together wherever it's vertically aligned and really compact that curriculum effectively for those students. And they would take the sixth grade STAR.
Right. So they would be identified at the end of fourth grade math STAR.
Okay, that was fixing to be
Yes.
my question.
Oh,
How we
yeah.
gonna
So
identify-
after fourth grade,
Yes.
when they take the STAR fourth grade, we would identify our high meets and masters
Yes.
and put them in this advanced pathway right now for fifth grade.
So they would skip the fifth grade STAR, and we would take the sixth grade STAR. Then in sixth grade, we would have pure instruction in seventh grade stages. They would be full grade ahead starting in sixth grade, and we would take then the seventh grade STAR. In seventh grade, they would take eighth grade learning and take the eighth grade STAR, and then in eighth grade, they would take Algebra 1. So it would be pure learning in seventh and eighth rather than the blended model that we currently have, and we wouldn't skip an assessment that is so heavily tested on college readiness as they move into the future.
This is similar to districts around us, but also Klein, Spring Branch also follows this model also.
Yeah. So back to your question about Alvin and Deer Park, they start enhancement in grade 5, and then this is the extrapolation of their scores and how they look with that fifth grade.
And I'm gonna ask you, just so I can understand, we attribute this decline or I guess the differential between the, I guess this is the, I'm looking at this chart right here at the back, but this is the percentage that meets.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
We attribute some of that to about how we're assessing and how that gets counted in the data with regards to advance. I guess my question is, but we're not attributing all of that to just this particular.
No, sir.
Okay, I just want to make
No,
sure
sir.
because
But I think it's
There are other
There's more
factors.
factors, yeah.
This is a big piece of it, but
Yeah,
there
there
are
are other variables.
100%. And
Okay.
I think what we are also seeing is that what the data will show here is that Alvin and Deer Park currently do not have advanced testers in their fifth grade assessment. So you'll see their scores lower at the fifth grade because they don't have their advanced testers there.
Right.
Which is why you'll see our scores higher because we have our
We have them
advanced
there.
testers in these numbers. But then you'll see that those numbers start to
They start to take
they
off
start to take off, whereas ours start to dip. And I think
because we haven't given them that foundation.
it is all in that foundation learning.
So those, the fifth graders that take the sixth grade test, do they count toward this campus or it just counts towards the district?
Counts
Because it's
towards
not
the
the
district, sixth
sixth grade
Yeah.
district.
So if you go back to page 2, you can kind of estimate how many students we're talking about per campus on that chart. So that would be advanced math for fifth grade. On the note of accountability, and again, this doesn't affect the schools, but in terms of accountability for our district, remember the pie graph in terms of the percentage of testers and how they count towards the big piece of our district accountability. So remember, 74% of our district accountability comes from 4 campuses: the high school, Baker, then the 2 junior highs. So when we are low in 7th and 8th grade math, we're also affecting the whole accountability for the district. But again, we don't share that with the teachers and the students because that's not their concern. But for us, in terms of in this meeting, that effect also, we see it in accountability.
Sorry, will you clarify, it's going to be the masters only group that is going to be considered for that, or it's going to be that whole population?
That chart just demonstrates to you what the top 40% would look like and how many numbers we have and
Okay.
what half of masters, just in terms of the upper levels of students. We have not determined what the selection criteria will fully be yet. We have a committee that will help us flesh out what those particular pieces are. Certainly if we went with all master's level students, we wouldn't have very big classes on some campuses.
Right.
I don't want that either.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we capture as many students as possible. The whole notion behind this law is we trail nationally with our mathematics scores statewide. So the idea of pushing
Yes.
students into advanced coursework is how we know we're going to move the mathematics needle in the state. So this is not without merit. So we want to make sure that we have a lot of students that we can capture, give them an opportunity for some advanced learning, because we know that that's what's going to move the needle.
We've met with principals and talked to them about this proposal. We've also met with fifth grade teachers at each of the 7 elementary campuses because it will affect them. Currently, right now, there's only one fifth grade math teacher at each campus. So what that would mean is moving their cheese a bit. So fifth grade teachers, they will be actually having 2 different type of teaching because they may have a class that's just advanced kids, but then they have the regular. So we're having more conversations with them in terms of what this would look like.
The planning, the curriculum side will come from our team, so teachers definitely will get trained ready by August in terms of what that looks like in advanced math and fifth.
And we would give them the support so that they.
Definitely.
Yeah, because you get figured gifted and talented, because a lot of them are gifted.
Yes.
you know,
Well,
and then
because
you
I think
got-
that's gonna be a good problem
And
for a
then you
teacher
got
to have and a
sixth
bad
grade
problem for a
teachers that
teacher
they may
to
not
have.
be familiar with
Right,
teaching
that's why we-
and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So that's gonna be a whole lot of,
Because you got
That's
to
what I want to
do-
share with you in February, so you can start helping us process it.
So Dr. Brown, would we provide some type of support? It was a good question from Ms. Thompson. You know, those teachers are going to be prepared now, 2 different lesson plans. Will we give them the support to do that for a while? So that
Definitely,
people can-
for sure.
Because they're gifted kids. That's going to be a fun class, but it's going to be a challenging class.
Right, we've already spoken about, we are gonna need to create a fifth grade district-wide PLC
Yes,
just for
for
this
this
work
group.
and how
That's right.
we can support those teachers with this work, so. So the last chart on here is just our rollout plan, or how we would phase this in. So in the 24-25 school year, we are working to adopt this advancement beginning in 5th grade based on 4th grade performance. We are, as you mentioned, there's lots of work that will need to be done to ready for this in terms of curriculum work, support for teachers, training and so forth. But the 5th grade students next year, so our current 4th grade students would be the first cohort of students who would take an advanced math class at their home campus with a 5th and 6th blended curriculum, and then those students would take the 6th grade STAR next year. So we would have no advanced testers next year in 5th grade math. The rest of the group, 6th, 7th, and 8th, would continue on their trajectory, which means that students currently in grade 6 would move, currently grade 6 would move into grade 7, and those advanced testers would not take the 7th grade STAR, they would take the 8th. So we would have next year 2 advanced groups not counting in 2 tests for the only year as we transition. Does that make sense? And then ultimately, moving this along so that we would have full implementation. The first cohort of advanced 5th graders would enroll in Algebra 1 in the 27-28 school year.
And so the concern from principals, which is fairly so from elementary principals, is their highest math testers in 5th grade will not count for them in accountability for their campus. So we would be pulling them because they will be taking the 6th grade STAR next spring. So again, if you're looking at numbers, it would be a small percentage, but obviously so, the principals are a little bit concerned, the elementary principals, about that. But in terms of the big picture, it's really about what's preparing our students and getting them ready for SAT and college readiness and what's best in terms of rigor for our students.
Because we see the great job that they do in 5th grade, but by the time they get to junior high, we start
They
to
just start
see it
sinking.
Well, what is y'all's professional opinion? Why is there such a precipitous drop off in 6th? It's not in 6th grade, but 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, according to these charts. Like what, I mean, moving the cheese is great, but like
foundational skills.
why is it so different in those 3 years?
Well,
It's
what's
foundational.
6th graders and 7th graders, number one, I mean, that's part of the equation, but I think some of it with the advanced students, the blended curriculum is just really challenging in 45 minutes, 47 minutes. So to double up, accelerate in that level, at that grade level, that makes it really hard. We see a dip that way.
But when you get into 6th and 7th grade math, you go into algebra. And so when algebra, that's the rigor changes after 5th grade. So you see the dip, but like Dr. Jackson just shared, the foundation wasn't there. So we're building upon something that students never got because they didn't get the 7th grade curriculum. And so then it just continues to band-aid, band-aid, band-aid in terms of what that is.
Are other districts not having the same problem though, the same time frames you mentioned? Is it not the same?
In terms of the
Like you
advancement
said,
pathways,
the 75 minutes or what the classroom period is?
I mean, there are some minimum number of minutes at the junior high level that are pretty consistent across the state. I think that it's just a matter of where do they double up and where do they double up their learning and
Sometimes it's an ELA block and sometimes it's a math block.
Correct.
You know, and I've been in districts long enough to know sometimes when we're focusing on improving our ELA scores, right, we double block there, and then sometimes when we're trying to work on our math scores, we do some of that work there. So, you know, it all depends on where you are.
So as a current 5th grade parent, this isn't going to affect me like immediately. But I have another child coming through the loop. Are y'all going to offer counseling for the parents? Definitely. I'm just telling you, I'm struggling with 5th grade math.
Definitely.
I'm just, it's going to be an adjustment for parents.
We are definitely looking at grants, actually. I'm glad you talked about that because we are looking at extra work or extra practice at home that students can do, that are resources that we can provide them. We're working on a TA LASSO grant where we can get a grant to get extra resources so parents and students can go home and work on it after school and at home.
As long as you send me how to do it, I can, it's the how do we get there?
Schoology coming, so all of it we launched through Schoology.
You think about doing it in elementary, you're gonna reduce that percentage, I'll talk about, what was it, 47%? Like, so it's pretty high, like, you would be like sweet spot of 30s, 35. Well, if I open it back, will it reduce that, you think?
No, I don't think it'll reduce it. We're going to try to really capture students so that we can anticipate the 40%, you know, that students will be required to be enrolled in 6th grade. And we're going to try to backfill that by increasing those numbers in 5th grade. But 30%, the number 30% is typical in terms of students who enroll in advanced coursework. When you think about a total number of students in a grade level, you usually don't have more than 30-35%. Like, that's your sweet spot with the number of students typically. So pushing to the top 40%, pushing those numbers. In some districts, we've had a lot of conversations in the area about this new law. In some districts, that's nearly 80-90% of their students. Their score so high. So this is really it's challenging our thinking about how we staff and how we put students in advanced courses.
And just to preface this will be new to our district. Deer Park has been doing this for the past 10 years. So you see the change in their data only because it's been in place. They've got a summer bridge program that they created. Those are things that we're talking to them about and how we can support our schools in terms of how this looks. But we're just now getting in this piece and talking about how we can look at advanced math. But districts have been doing this for a while.
Questions, board?
No?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown and Ms. Abram, I appreciate that. At this time, I just want to kind of lay the context for this. For the last couple of months, a team of administrators, central administrators, along with myself and Dr. Bromley and others that are in here, have met to have lots of deep conversations about, boundaries, where zoning should be, campus enrollment. We've got campuses with a large enrollment. We've got campuses that have a very, very small enrollment. We want to bring to your attention tonight some plans on how we would like to approach this to get the best out of our students, get the best maximum output out of our campuses, to maintain some level of efficiency, again, to balance enrollment on our campuses, and then most importantly, or equally as important, to consider special programming where we have it. And so, Billy, at any given time, as Trader, you can share our programming on all of our elementary campuses, or various elementary campuses, but they too add to the enrollment. So, as Dr. Bromley kind of shares some of our plans tonight, we want you to just keep an open mind of some things that we're trying to do to mitigate a whole lot, not too much movement across the district, and move in the places where we can get the best fit for our students, and hopefully it'll be a win-win situation for everyone. Dr. Bromley?
Yes, and I think important to note that we realize when you start talking about the word rezoning, changing of boundaries, people get very sensitive. And we were aware of that as we started this conversation, and the work really started back in the first semester. We had a series of meetings with different cabinet members, different departments, to kind of lay out what we felt would be the least impactful to our community, and would do the very minimal of how do you affect the kids and parents. So you got a packet in front of you. Go ahead and turn to the second page. I think you're already there. Looking at program growth and capacity, Doc talked a little bit about it already, special ed, bilingual, some other different areas that we have. Those areas are constantly growing. And what we've seen on the right side of that first page, you'll see our current enrollments, and you can see Heritage as our largest campus, but something hidden at Heritage when you don't look at our standard enrollment is the ECC, right? The child care facility back there. Well, that's 84 kids. So really that team oversees 709 kids. That's a very large campus for us. We take those things in count, right? What is happening at Heritage that maybe one of these smaller capacity or smaller enrollment campuses can take on, and how do we look at balancing some of that? So we looked through that. Another big piece in the conversation as we started this in the first semester was the time kids spend on our buses as it relates to programs. Our bilingual kids, we have 2 routes that service those students, spend over an hour on our buses, give or take, right? When our standard route lasts anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes tops. So that's obviously an issue, right? And that's a programmatic thing by way of location and where that program is set up as we speak in our district. Also, we are aware that there's a new apartment complex that's being built off Canada over there near Jenny Reed in that area, and that currently in our current zoning setup is scheduled or zoned to go to Heritage. So not only is that already our largest campus, but when they build that apartment, if nothing was to change, any kid that would come out of there, and I assume there would be kids, they would go to our largest campus. If you'll turn the page. We looked at 3 areas, 3 big programs that we felt, once again, that has a suitable amount of students that are a part of those programs, and again, would be the least effective as far as impactful to community and our parents as we move. The first one is a bilingual program, and I'll spend more time in depth here. From Heritage moving over to Rizzuto. The second one is our SEL program, which is a special education program that would move from Rizzuto over to LaPorte Elementary. And then lastly, we currently have pre-K at both College Park and LaPorte Elementary. We'd be looking at splitting LaPorte and opening up an addition. It wouldn't be any additional staffing. We'd literally take the 4 teachers that are at LPE, take the 2 and bring them to Bayshore. And I'll show you kind of what that can do for us from a flexibility standpoint, as far as mapping, and as far as what that does for transportation. If you'll turn the page. So bilingual, it's one of our largest, if not largest, programs we got in our district. Currently at Heritage, it serves 224 students in that program and 5 teachers attached to that program there at Heritage. Obviously, the benefits of that, every kid in our district that's a part of it goes to Heritage. That means if you live next to LaPorte Elementary, if you live in Bayshore, you drive all that way. And again, I talked a little bit about the travel time and the route time being over an hour and a half in some cases. So that would cut down that travel time. It'd be much more centralized at Rizzuto. We could break that apart and really be more efficient as we look at our busing and our routing throughout the district. It naturally decreases the enrollment at Heritage, being the largest one, and it increases the enrollment at Rizzuto, being one of the smallest, if not the smallest one, right? You turn the page, special ed. At Rizzuto, we have the SEL program, Social Academic and Interpersonal Learning Program. It currently serves around 20 kids. There's 2 teachers and 3 paraprofessionals that are attached to that program. We're recommending moving that to LaPorte Elementary. Obviously, with Rizzuto intaking 224 kids, we know that we don't want to fill all the programs there. We would be able to shift that over to LaPorte Elementary. One positive to that, we currently have SEL at LaPorte already. So they would be taking that on. That program as a whole would now be housed at LaPorte Elementary. Obviously, we can support that, provide all the different resources that we would need to do at that campus with that shift. And it removes an additional program at Rizzuto, right? We don't want to put too much on any campus with any of these shifts.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Yes, ma'am.
So Rizzuto would still, so currently Rizzuto has SAIL and they have the behavior support program. Those are pretty intensive need programs. And so it would alleviate one of those, where LPE already has one of them, so they would retain the BSP, but it would shift SAIL.
Rizzuto currently has 4 SAIL students, and I only know that because I saw a list today.
No, ma'am, we have 20 SAIL students at Rizzuto.
SAIL or behavior, the user
BSP, I have 9, and Rizzuto, SAIL, I have 20.
Okay, in McEwen's class alone, like just
No,
who are with her
that's just
directly?
the ones that are in self-contained.
That's what, okay, so that's what, I'm sorry, I messed up. I apologize, I should have said, okay. So I was like, okay, wait, that number's very different than what I saw today.
You're right.
Okay.
Those are the students that are there all day long.
Right, so
Excuse me 1 second. How many campuses have a BSP program?
At elementary, 2.
2. Okay, 2.
So Jenny Reed and Rizzuto?
So it leaves the BSP portion and takes the SEL program to LPE again, where they're already, the other one is, so it combines that program. If you turn the page, you'll look at the pre-K. This gets a little difficult as it pertains to numbers, because what it does, it really gives us the flexibility. This is a registration-based program, so we know when the students register, we can get on the map and say, well, now we've got 3 sites to be able to split this apart. The struggle we have with the program now is east and west. So when we meet capacity at LPE and a student enrolls or registers that they live by Bayshore, we can't put them at LPE. We got to put them on a bus and they go all the way to College Park. And we have that all the time. So the idea of adding it at Bayshore, again, gives us another idea or a centralized component with our mapping. Once we get the registration, we can split that apart and we will have no more overflow issues. Well,
And we're watching that as the kids are coming in.
Absolutely.
We're monitoring that.
Absolutely.
And CPE will still continue to have the pre-K bilingual.
Correct.
They'll keep the pre-K bilingual.
So the current number at LPE is 98 students and CPE is 110. Again, we'll have flexibility. I can't give you exactly what that would look like. We're going to have the roundup soon. That will be coming out. Once we get those numbers, we'll have the ability to kind of place them throughout the district.
Okay, I got a question. So the part that's blue with the black stripes, you were talking about that zone to Bayshore?
Could be.
Because that's a long
Right.
route for those people that are in Pecan Crossing, all that, when College Park is so close by.
Correct. Those are areas that we would look at. We would split that. Some would go to College Park, some would go to LaPorte Elementary, some would go to Bayshore.
But now you have three, and you don't just have two.
That's right.
It's the whole goal.
A large amount of our students are on the east side of the district, so that we're looking a lot of those really on south of there, Fairmont.
I had a question on that. So I've heard from my friends in the city that, and we're predominantly Hispanic, ISD, it's a growing number, right? Why, I guess, the logic of only having one bilingual campus, and then also two, what I've been told, the majority of Hispanic community, not all, obviously, but like, the higher percentage is here on the east side. So why has it always been, why did it move to Heritage, A, and B, why are we not looking at having something here on the east side?
I can't answer all of that, but I will say we're trying to right-size some of those things now. But we have two bilingual campuses
Well, the bilingual current campus right now, CPE for pre-K.
for pre-K.
Which is on the furthest west.
Heritage, yeah.
That's the K,
Yeah.
Which are two furthest west campuses,
I know,
like, it's so
yeah.
far away.
Which is, we're trying to right-size some of this. I mean, we're still, as we look at these things, this is the time to start thinking about some of those things.
But I guess what I'm getting at is, so there's still more bilingual students than the pre-K, and you're talking about, well, we need three of them. Why are we not looking at that for an actual bilingual campus?
Yeah. We haven't had a whole lot of conversations yet about bilingual. Are we bursting at the seams with bilingual yet?
Not necessarily with 225, that's across K-5.
So they're not all
The
in
issue
one area.
is also with staffing. So if we open up another bilingual program in another school, it may not have more than 10 kids per classroom. So a bilingual classroom is separate from a regular ed. So we're talking about the number of staffing, but as currently we have right now with 225, the staffing we have at Heritage is enough for 20 in a class, 22 in a class. So we created and put again, you're looking at double the number of bilingual teachers at another school with less kids.
So, I mean, I assume y'all pull this, y'all have like stats on how many of the kids currently at Heritage, what areas they're from? Like, how far you're having to bus them, is that why?
And where they're coming from, yes.
Yeah.
Or is it just based on they have the less amount of students, so we gotta put them there?
No, it will be based off location.
A lot of them are.
So it would be a bilingual program, not a dual language like,
Correct.
like it was previously,
It's
you
a
know.
bilingual program.
So students wouldn't have the option of opting in, like, okay.
When they enroll.
Well, I'm saying, like, you know, to be able to learn, like, English immersion, what is it called for?
The bilingual program, when students enroll, they fill out a form that says, what is your home language? Once they sign that, it says Spanish or another
Strictly gonna be
language,
a
that
time
triggers the bilingual.
And Melissa, you're right. There was a time in the district where we had the dual language program.
Yeah, they knocked it out.
And I remember my first year coming here, I started looking back at that. And I was, you know, folks reminded me, we had to go away from that due to some financial constraints because you got to have two teachers in those classrooms.
Right.
And it's really almost not impossible. Where's Angie? But it's very difficult to find bilingual teachers. It's very difficult. So we try to hold on to the ones we have.
Yeah, the state puts some constraints on us with the language, before we can have an ESL teacher and
Yes,
a
right.
bilingual teacher, and they started having more and more requirements for the teachers.
And they made it more difficult to have the program.
Difficult for, all around, so, and then after we talked about this too, our cohorts have gotten a lot smaller for students needing the bilingual side of the program, and that was a concern as principal was seeing here in the report, is less and less students identifying the needs of bilingual.
How many are in the pre-K program at College Park that are bilingual? Do you know that number?
Do we have those numbers?
pulling it up.
It's right at 40, the 2 classes max.
Okay.
And I can give you exact.
No, that's okay.
But to Jeff Martin's question, we will continue to look at our bilingual numbers, and when and if we need to do that, to split again, I mean, we're gonna have to do that, and we're just gonna have to look at where the staffing comes from that. You know, as that program grows, because you're right, the population that we have is growing.
And the dual language used to be at Rosita.
It
In a
was.
logistical sense, I would think, bear with me, that most of the bilingual students are on the east side of LaPorte. We're busing up to the
Yeah,
furthest
so that's what I'm
point.
getting at.
Yeah.
I mean, not to go into demographics, but if you looked at it,
Well, we're gonna look at, but I mean, we're gonna have to, we're gonna be forced to look at that at some point.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
At one time, when we first built Heritage, there was a fairly large population of students who needed a bilingual program in that general area over there. Just specifically right there, by where Walmart is, the trailer homes that were there, as well as some other areas that were zoned to Heritage. So that was an identified need in addition to it being a larger campus and could accommodate that. What we were seeing at the Bayshore, and before, the bilingual program was actually housed at LPE. And then it moved because of the population was getting larger at LaPorte Elementary, the enrollment. And so when it moved, we started seeing a progression, and this was right before we moved the program from Bayshore to Heritage. We had to condense it because there were so little, and Alicia, you might remember, I think at one point we even had to combine like a 4-5 because there were only, between the 2 grades, there were only like 14 students. And so we were just seeing that time. But to your point, Mr. Martin, I will say that could be, we just need to look at that population where
I'm slow. Would you say it was like kind of overflowing, it was getting too big for Bayshore, and y'all moved it to Heritage, and then it declined? Is it?
No,
You think they didn't want to bust that
it
far?
wasn't getting too big, it was actually getting smaller.
Okay.
Yeah,
So they
smaller,
combined it with another one.
the cohorts going
Trying to
down.
combine the
Yes,
programs.
sir, we were having to combine, even doing like a 4-5 split to get it
And obviously, the Bayshore addition just again centralizes the flexibility. The overflow is an issue for us when we can't get them there. So then if they've got siblings and we've got to battle through the sibling piece because that goes along with it.
Sure.
And then you start to run into those. But that's definitely something we can continue to look at as we move through there. Any questions? Or you can turn the page here. Any questions on any of those 3 programmatic components?
I'll just make a comment on that, just when y'all do look at as far as distance, especially on the west end there towards College Park.
Yeah.
I
I just did a quick snapshot. Now I'm looking at current cohort and current enrollment as we sit here. And the pre-K numbers can be adjusted as needed once we see the registration into the new year. But if you take the 224 away at Heritage, you're a base of 401 with ECC and the ability to grow even further, but that puts it at 485. Also, the new apartment complex and the zoning map is still zoned to Heritage, so there'll be growth coming from that as needed as kids move into that area. It puts LPE, even if we took half of the current pre-K kids and put them at Bayshore at 534, LXE stays the same, Rizzuto goes to 542 with the 224 bilingual program. CPE 439, again, looking at pre-K, that could go up, so on and so forth. Jenny Reed at 417, and then Bayshore at 430, that's just taking half of LPE, right? So just gives you a picture of more of a balanced look for the district. Again, with pre-K, we're going to have some flexibility as we see the map, as those kids start to come in, and as we kind of zone that out to those different locations in the district.
Well, and make no mistake about it, as you know, if there is a population explosion in bilingual or whatever grade level, the good thing is the teacher will follow the student and the program. And so if we have to hire more, if kids are coming, that's a good problem to have. And so we can determine really quickly, based on some of these metrics, where that goes. So what we're just trying to do is optimize the usage of the facilities that we have. We've got campuses with 300 kids, and that's just not feasible if we're really looking at, optimizing things. And so I think this is a good opportunity for us to take advantage of this. Most of the youngsters that we're going to move and shuffle are not necessarily in neighborhoods that's been established for 25 and 30 years, because we're trying to just touch the edges and the outskirts of programs and apartments for the most part.
What else?
Folks that have never been there before.
What elementary school does Morgan's Landing go to?
It's split in half. North goes to LXE, south goes to Jenny Reed. Literally, it's split in
It's
half.
north and south.
And so with the continued, there's a few spaces left back there for them to build. Do we know where that's, are they split or are they?
I'd have to look at the map.
Okay, I was gonna say, do we know what
There's a
kind of
road, Alyssa, you know
potential
the road
population we have
runs,
coming
but
from
it's-
that?
It's a clear-cut divider. Yeah. Okay.
So that apartment complex that's next to Morgan's Landing goes to?
Lomax.
Lomax. The last piece is looking at a small change or adjustment in the boundary setup for the junior high schools. When we're reviewing, obviously, teams and rolling up into a new year, we look at cohort sizes of our current setups, where kids are coming from, and so on and so forth. And we're looking at a very small cohort moving into Lomax Junior High School, and that's kind of the number there for you, 494. And then LaPorte Junior is setting, and this is all the kids who we currently have that would roll from Baker, and then current 7th graders that would roll up, setting at 572. So we've got a kind of a lopside there. So we went out and looked at, where could we grab some map space again, at the minimal impact that we can make to try to add some kids to Lomax Junior High School. They will get the new apartment complex, as I mentioned, but that may not be for some time down the road, right? So we looked at adding Pecan Crossing. It's the neighborhood there, really just east of their current boundary. And we grab about 32 kids. Those are current bus riders now. That doesn't count car riders, so we're anticipating that being a little bit more, but that would add some to Lomax Junior High School, and then kind of get that number up. And then any growth that we see. Obviously, we know we're post-COVID. We're kind of getting back to that point of kind of understanding who we are and what our growth patterns look like. So it kind of gives us an idea to kind of set that up. Sir.
Okay, 2 questions. I couldn't tell, you said Pecan Crossing, but you have the block here. We also including Summer Winds, or you dividing that out?
Summer Winds, Alyssa.
That's right next to Pecan Crossing, it's in that same block.
Oh, wait.
I think they grabbed the larger ones, right?
It's just Pecan Crossing.
Okay. I don't know. I still think that block probably should go Lomax to take the Summer Winds, because if you're trying to save on transportation, I mean, Lomax Junior High is right there, and usually those buses make a loopy-loop through, I mean, I'm just speaking like in elementary with Heritage.
Community, you help me out?
Summer Winds. I'll show you the map. So your proposal is taking this part right here, I'm talking about that little, right here, that little circular. Because what they do is when those buses come, they come in the summer wind, come out, and then as they exit out, they go out Pecan Crossing, go in the loopy-loop to Pecan Crossing out. So it's easy
Make
to
a note
take
of it,
one
and
bus.
we don't ride it. We don't take a look.
Yeah.
We looked at several neighborhoods, and some of the concern was not grabbing too much, right? And taking
Well, it's a small neighborhood, so I don't think you're going to
Get a whole lot.
get a whole lot there, but it saves on the block. My other question is, well, I have 2 questions. One, I'm not even sure of, because I'm looking at the existing boundary line. Like, you have Lomax Junior High with LaPorte going down Roseberry on the northern part. My question is that boundary line the street, so this side of Roseberry goes to Lomax Junior High, and this side of Roseberry goes to LaPorte, or is it all?
Can you go to Roseberry and tell me where you got that?
We don't know, they don't know where.
It's the West LaPorte boundary.
There's nothing.
So we have that whole, the
People
Pecan
speak.
Crossing and the Canet, Dry Springs,
That's Summer Winds.
everything north of Carlo, that's already Lomax, so pretty much everything on the west side of Underwood will go to Lomax.
So it'd be, okay,
Well, that's what he-
Summer Winds and Pecan Crossing, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's already done that way.
No, it's not, I mean, not,
No, that's what we're,
the proposal.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Everything
So that whole block?
Yes.
Okay. Now, my other question what I was asking was on the existing boundary line on Roseberry between Lomax Junior High and LaPorte Junior High. Is it currently students on this side of Roseberry which is not really any houses. I mean, usually they have like Quiet Hill and all that. You really just have the houses facing, that has the Roseberry address on the east side, but are those people on the east side of Roseberry going to LaPorte Junior High, or are they going to Lomax Junior High?
So, Roseberry north of Rustic Gate is Lomax. Roseberry south of Rustic Gate is LaPorte Junior. And we'll stay.
Okay, okay.
It doesn't change.
Okay, well, the reason why is, did y'all do numbers as far as how many kids would be, because splitting that neighborhood up, what that would look like in terms of your numbers if you kept that neighborhood, Fairmount Park West, intact, to have it zoned completely to Lomax Junior?
The whole
southern half, yeah, just the southern half going, keeping Roseberry going on down south.
Making
All the way.
Underwood the divider.
Pretty much the ditch, is the divider.
Don't cross my ditch.
Yeah.
Jason, I have a probably a dumb question. The number at the top says LaPorte Junior 572 and it stays the same on the bottom.
Correct. Oh, yeah, that should go away. That should go down, I'm sorry. I didn't change that. So it takes off 32.
You're gonna do that.
Okay, so it's 540 to 526.
Gosh,
But I guess my
That was
question,
fast math.
my question is like, how many kids when the southern half of Fairmount Park West is under Lomax?
I know we looked at some income setups. We didn't want to try to keep that as balanced as possible.
So it pushed over because of Fairmont Health Department.
Okay,
There's quite a few kids.
right.
So if you would either leave them only to go to LaPorte Junior, then it would be okay, but if you grab like that whole, south half, including them, it would just,
Take that over. Okay.
Well, ultimately, we're trying to balance it as best we can and not have one become larger than the other, but, and I appreciate all of the comments and the
like, I think you
conversation.
could do it now and it would be okay, but then if the new
Because it
apartment
may-
complex
it may
was
grow
larger,
into
that. Right,
That's right, that's right. We really, I mean, and I'm certainly probably giving myself the death penalty here, but our goal is to get this as close to optimal as possible so that we don't have to do this every 2 years, right? We don't want to mess with people's lives and people's, you know, where kids go and all those kinds of things every 2 years. So we're trying to just kind of make this right. We've got 2 very large junior high campuses that could easily handle 1,000 kids each or more, plus, you know, that are buried at 600. And so we're absolutely trying to get optimal.
Now, one other question. Assuming you want to take this effect in the next school year.
Yes.
For existing 7th graders that are living in Pecan Crossing and Summerwinds, that would become 8th graders, will we give them the option to remain at their campus and finish out? Or they would be forced to move to the campus?
We wanted to share this first.
Okay.
David, you're giving me way too many questions. But we wanted to share this first, sir, because I think once we know the direction and we feel like we've got a blessing, and then we got to work those things out. And once we do that, we would report all of that to, but also to parents. We would make sure we get
That affects transportation?
Yes, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. But Ms. Cross has been in all of these meetings and with that program back there and kind of helping us to look at where people are, where kids are coming from and those kinds of things. We want to make sure now, after we hear from the board, that we go and solidify the plan and then start really marketing to the parents that are going to be affected. Not everybody, but to the people that are going to be impacted. And we can have some conversations about that. Some honest conversations, because what we don't want to do is, we don't want to disrupt the whole kids' junior high time, but we also don't want for the things that we're trying to do, the changes that we're trying to make, to not take place for another 10 years. And I know that's
someone's going to take the brunt of this.
right. Somebody's going to take it.
Back.
Right. Somebody's going to take it. So we certainly will communicate that to the board pretty quickly.
With all the, on like the restructuring, I didn't see anything on DAP. Is that to assume, at least for next year, that they're going to stay at the same campus?
I want to have a conversation with the board about that. Or y'all giving them to me tonight. But I want to have we're going to have a conversation with the board about that, okay? And I want to have a conversation, not tonight, but I want to have a conversation.
Let's do it. Right here. We all here.
Because this is what we do. In all of these things, with all due respect, and y'all know this board, we have conversations with the people affected first, even if we're just gonna talk about that. I don't want principals to hear any of this, and I haven't had a conversation with them,
You're
right?
doing great.
So we'll go with you, and then we'll go back and talk to principals, and then we'll, okay? So, we got a plan, but I wanna kinda get there, okay? And it probably won't need to come back to a workshop. I can have these conversations in exec, okay?
Any other questions?
Probably, but we'll let you go.
Thank you, Dr. Bromley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, and thank you, Ms. Abram, and thank you to everybody that made a contribution. I want you to just take a really quick look at the last presentation, and we didn't bother with putting them on the screen. I just want to kind of just call the board's attention to some things that Terry Moore is, as our consultant, is going to come and share all of this one more time, and she's going to be able to walk us through these things. But on that very first page, just talks about a strategic planning timeline, and of course, week 1 and 2 of February are gone, and we're in week 3 already. So all of this is going to be modified, but Terry has a plan to kind of share this with the board. But just basically, talking about validating a mission and vision. It's been quite a while since this school district's board of trustees has gone through a strategic plan. I think that up there says maybe 2011 to 2012. So it's been quite a while, and so we just want to make certain that we take our time and work through this. But we're going to validate mission and vision, and we're going to gather relevant data and stakeholder input. I will say that you know, just for the sake of the plan, strategic planning is beginning to morph into the mid-21st century. In the old days, a strategic plan would happen, and everybody would come together for 10 or 15 meetings, and everybody's in the room at the same time, and then there'll be some small breakout sessions. Some of this work is going to be where large groups are here, some of this is going to be small groups, but then there's going to be surveys that are going out, and there's going to be some of those small group interviews by Terry. So not all of it's going to be that we have to come every Tuesday night from 6 to 9 o'clock. Some of this work is going to be done through surveys and qualitative data collection, okay? But we're going to be gathering that relevant data and stakeholder input, setting goals and developing the plan and the framework. Board, this is your strategic plan. This is your opportunity to say to me, your employee, and to us, your employees, what it is that you want to see happening in this district for the next 5, 7, 10 years. Some strategic plans are 5 years, some of them can go up to 7 to 10 years. And so we just need to know what is your vision? What are your goals? What would you like to see happening in the Porte ISD? In addition to all the things that we're trying to do right now. But what are those things and what are those metrics that we're going to set to make sure that these are happening? Set goals and develop plan framework. We're going to review data, cluster, prioritize goals, identify 3 to 5 broad goals, set goals in support of the mission and the vision. The mission and the vision that we have, it's going to shift, it's going to change, because we're going to have some conversations about that through wordsmithing and going through the whole process. So Terry's going to walk us through these processes, and all of these folks are going to be here, and a whole nother group of folks are going to be here, because we're going to invite some stakeholders, and you get to say who those stakeholders are. You give us the names of those folks coming up, okay? And then, as we are writing the strategic plan, we'll identify leads for each portion of that plan. That'll be some of us in here. Certainly will be some of our board members as well. Draft objectives and strategies, and then review feasibility and outcomes. Can we accomplish what it is that we're saying we're trying to do? Is this feasible? Is this something that we can actually attain? Right? Because what we don't want to do is have it so lofty to where we never reach those kinds of goals. And so I can tell you, I've gone through these before. I think we're ripe and primed for this to happen. New board, we've got new members on the board, we've got new members possibly coming to the board, and so it's a really good time for us to do that. And then lastly, review, validate, approve the strategic plan and take it to the actual community, so that the entire community would know. And just as we have the older strategic plan posted all over, it needs to speak to us. The strategic plan needs to be something that we all agree about and that we all believe in, and that more than that, we can all articulate to some degree. Because if we can't articulate what the strategic plan is, we probably have not internalized that work. And so that's going to happen over the next 3 to 4 months. What questions do you have for me? As I said, I just wanted to kind of share with you some of the things she's going to share when she's before you in March. What questions do you have for me, Board, or what direction do you have for me as we move forward with some of this information?
Okay, so we don't overstep. What did you say you want our feedback as our goals? Is that what you said?
Yes, but she's gonna walk us through that.
Okay, so we're waiting till
We're gonna
facilitate.
She's gonna come in and facilitate this, but the board is going to help us. You're gonna come together collectively, and you're gonna ask the help for all of us. And we're gonna talk about where are we headed with this? Where are we headed as a district, as a team of 8? You know, and what is it that you want to see? What, you know, talk about the board, the portrait of a graduate. You know, the portrait of a graduate from 15 years ago has to be totally different, right? CCMR was not even a concept 15 years ago, right? And so what is that? AI wasn't around. And we weren't talking about AI 2 years ago. And so what do we want, and what do we want our kids to know? We're putting computers in the hands of our students, but I don't know that the future is going to be computers in the hands of students. It may be a wearable device, you know? Try that on for size. There may be a wearable device that kids are wearing. And so now they walk in with their glasses and they can kind of pull up everything. There are glasses out there doing those kinds of things. So we just have to think beyond where we are for visioning. Your vision has to be much broader than where we are right now because things are changing so quickly. What questions does the board have for me or any of our folks? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for Ms. Abrams.
Okay.
And I meant to ask this earlier and I did not. On this new proposal, as I look at 6th grade advanced math will take the 7th grade test. And 7th graders will take the 8th grade test. And 8th graders will take the algebra test, right? Am I following you right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, to our point of all the conversations we've had about Baker, would it behoove us to put those campuses together so that those teachers are collaborating? And David, maybe you can chime in on this as a math teacher. Because those 7th grade teachers at the junior high could possibly help those 6th grade math teachers prepare those children for the 7th grade test. If we put them all together. If our goal truly is to knock this out of the park, would we set them up better for success if we had them all together?
When you say all together, that's moving the 6th
At one campus.
All the advanced math students at a single campus?
All the 6th grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th together.
So you have vertical alignment, I guess.
You'd have 2.
You have a regular junior high.
Yeah, you'd have 2 junior highs. Like we have now, but you'd have 6th graders in the junior highs as well.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, not at all. You know, I think that's.
No, I mean, when you look at that, it just makes sense in my brain, but I'm not a math teacher either, so I'm asking.
And you have 7th grade teachers that know the TEKS that could now be eligible to teach
That
if
can
they were
help
on
the
the
6th
campus.
graders with the TEKS.
To be fair, the 2 examples, that's what they have in Alvin and Deer Park, right? Currently.
With Deer Park, I don't know about Alvin. But
I
Deer
don't
Park,
know, but I'll find out.
Deer Park is 6, 7, 8, but I'm not sure about Alvin.
It's certainly something for us to explore and consider.
But you also have places like Galena Park that still has a very highly successful 6th grade
6th grade campus, yes.
Highly successful.
That's an anomaly in the state.
I want to match that anomaly at some point with our 6th grade campus.
I agree. But, okay, that's just a question. When you look at that on paper, it just kind of hits you in the face.
I don't have a question. I know it's shocking. A comment though. I not to be cheesy about it. I think it's, for me personally, very refreshing. I have kind of like PTSD from 2 years of bond. I'm glad it passed. But I think it's, I don't know. I mean, nothing has not happened. Nothing y'all weren't working diligently all throughout the process. But like we're hearing things that aren't related to bond, curriculum based, and that you guys are. I think it's, I get so excited because we're acknowledging that we have some deficiency. We talked about math tonight, and that we're working to fix that, and that makes me happy in my heart. Like, so thank you for the job y'all are doing on that. Not that you haven't been doing it, but like the bond has that took such a precedent over everything, and so I just commend you guys for doing that.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Mr. President?
Yep. No one has any other questions?
No?
Then we can go ahead and adjourn at 7:28.
Okay, before.
What?
revoke this
You
adjournment.
never asked for public comment. I know no one's here to public comment, but I don't think it's a legal meeting without it.
Yeah.
Do we have anybody here that would like to, hang on, let me read them.
There you go. Now adjourn.
Yeah, does anybody want to have public comment?
At the bar.
Noted, no one's here to make public comment. All right, with that said, we will adjourn.